A young woman with golden hair and an infectious smile lighting up movie screens across America. Her laughter became the soundtrack of a generation. She won an Oscar. She built an empire. She became a household name that represented pure joy and sunshine. But what if everything you thought you knew about her Hollywood journey was only half the story? Goldie Hawn, the actress whose bright laughter once shaped a whole era. For everyone watching, she represented happiness, brightness, and that special Hollywood charm. She danced on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, wearing a bikini and body paint, giggling her way into America's living rooms. She won her Academy Award at just 24 years old. She starred in box office hits throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. She seemed unstoppable, untouchable, and always smiling. But behind the cameras, away from the premiere lights and award show applause, Goldie was fighting battles most people never knew existed. She was navigating a Hollywood that loved her image but didn't always respect her intelligence. She was dealing with male co-stars who saw her blonde hair and heard her famous giggle and assumed there was nothing more beneath the surface. They underestimated her. They dismissed her. Some even tried to destroy her. And through it all, Goldie stayed silent. She smiled for the cameras, she promoted her films, she built her production company, and she raised her family. But she also kept a list, not written down anywhere, not discussed in interviews, but burned into her memory. A list of names, a list of moments, a list of men who tried to make her feel small. Today, at age 79, Goldie is finally speaking out for the first time, sharing details about the 6 actors she quietly disliked the most. These aren't just petty Hollywood feuds or ego clashes. These are stories about respect, about boundaries, about a woman who refused to let powerful men define her worth. People used to call her America's favorite star, the woman who won everyone's heart. However, some people talked behind her and said she was selfish, insincere, and not as talented as people thought. Industry insiders whispered that she was difficult, that she was just a pretty face, that her success was pure luck. Goldie listened to all of it. She didn't forget, and she promised herself she'd never work with these people again. When you learn who they are, you'll see just how much hurt was hidden beneath that bright smile. What you're about to hear might shock you. Some of these names are Hollywood royalty. Some are beloved comedy legends. But each one crossed a line with Goldie Hawn, and each one paid a price they never saw coming. Her silence became her power. Her absence became her statement. And decades later, the truth is finally coming to light.
1. Kirk Douglas, the Hollywood legend who never knew. Kirk Douglas, the final name on Goldie's silent dislike list. The one nobody would ever guess. Not a competitor, not a loud-talking comedian, a Hollywood icon. It started at an industry discussion panel in the late 1990s. Goldie was there as an Oscar recipient, a producer, an experienced Hollywood professional. Kirk, already a legendary figure, welcomed her with that recognizable smile, kissed her hand, and remarked, "You haven't aged a day, sweetheart." The audience laughed. Goldie smiled, but internally it felt like an insult disguised as praise. As the panel continued, things became worse. Kirk interrupted her repeatedly, completing her sentences, correcting her ideas, taking back the attention as if it still only belonged to him. Every interruption reminded her how easily influential men dismissed women, even successful ones. The moderator later confessed, "You could feel her frustration. She went from glowing to stone cold." Following the event, Goldie told a friend, "He talks to me like I'm still the blonde in a bikini scene. I've won an Oscar." That expressed everything. She stayed friendly toward Michael Douglas, frequently praising him as the type of respectful man Hollywood required. But she never mentioned Kirk again. "Some men," she later said quietly, "don't deserve a second act in your memory." And that's the harshest reality of all. Kirk Douglas never even realized he was on her list.
2. Sean Penn, the public humiliation at a charity gala. Then there was Sean Penn, Number 2 on her hidden hate list. Goldie thought she'd seen every form of arrogance Hollywood could produce. She was wrong. Nothing prepared her for what happened with Sean Penn. Because this time, the humiliation didn't happen on a set or behind closed doors. It happened in public, under chandeliers in front of an entire ballroom full of industry power players. And Goldie Hawn never forgot. It happened in 2014 at a Malibu charity gala, where Goldie had been invited to give a short, heartfelt speech about mental health, a cause she's devoted much of her life to. When she stepped on stage, the entire room went quiet, except for Sean Penn. From his table, he sighed loudly, rolled his eyes, and muttered, "Another celebrity wellness sermon." But the real blow came after her speech ended to warm applause. Penn leaned back, smirked, and delivered the line that would stay with her forever. She should stick to giggling. Goldie didn't react. She didn't shrink. She simply smiled, lifted her glass in a quiet toast, and left the room early. Only once she was in the car did she finally speak. "My whole career, and I'm still reduced to giggles." That was the moment she drew her line in the sand. From that night forward, Goldie refused to attend any event where Sean Penn's name appeared on the guest list. And when asked years later how she felt about him, she didn't hesitate. "Not my energy." She wasn't angry, she was finished. 3. Chevy Chase, the onset arrogance that ended a friendship. Then came Chevy Chase, number 3 on her silent blacklist. How bad was it? Goldie once told a friend, "If I ever have to smile next to Chevy Chase again, I'll quit Hollywood." That's how deep the bitterness went, and that's why he sits at number 3 on her silent blacklist. Back in 1978, foul play looked like the perfect match. Goldie, America's sweetheart. Chevy, comedy's rising king. On camera, they were magic. Off camera, it was pure chaos. Chevy strutted onto the set like he owned the studio. He mocked lines, rewrote jokes, derailed takes, and if Goldie got a bigger laugh, he'd sulk for hours. Worse, he'd mutter under his breath, "She's lucky to be here." Goldie tried to stay gracious. She joked, she charmed, she kept the peace, but the cracks grew. One night, after yet another fight over a scene, Chevy stormed off and refused to return unless the director rewrote it. Goldie stayed behind, sitting quietly on the steps, completely drained. "He's not funny when the cameras stop," she whispered to her stylist. "He's just mean." By the end of filming, they weren't even speaking. The studio begged her for a sequel, millions on the table. She didn't blink. "Not interested," she told her agent, and that was the end of Chevy Chase for her.
4. Dustin Hoffman, the audition that shattered respect. Then there was Dustin Hoffman, number 4 on her unspoken blacklist, and perhaps the most surprising name of all. The world saw Hoffman as a genius. Goldie once did too. But after one audition, her opinion changed forever. It was the early 1980s, and Goldie was ready to evolve. She had already proven she could make millions laugh. Now she wanted to make them feel. A prestigious drama was in the works, and producers were ecstatic about pairing her with Hoffman for the lead. Everyone expected sparks. They were right, but not in the way anyone hoped. Halfway through their reading, Hoffman abruptly stopped. He stared at her with a cold, expressionless face, then turned to the producers and said, "She's still playing it like a sitcom." The words hit harder than any slap. Goldie didn't react. She didn't defend herself. She finished the scene with flawless composure, thanked the room, and walked out before anyone could speak. The next morning, she called her agent. Her voice was steady, emotionless. "I'm out. I won't fight for respect in a room full of men who already decided I'm a joke." With that sentence, Goldie walked away from the project and from Dustin Hoffman forever. Years later, when someone asked about the incident, she simply said, "Some men forget they're not directing the women around them." One quiet, razor-sharp line. That was her revenge. Hoffman thought he'd exposed her weakness. Instead,
He revealed his own arrogance. Goldie didn't argue, she didn't plead. She just walked away and never looked back.
5. Warren Beatty, the rejection that became revenge. Then came Warren Beatty, number 5 on our list. The rejection that became revenge. It all started with a single word: no. That was all it took for Warren Beatty, Hollywood's most powerful womanizer, to turn against Goldie Hawn. In the late 1970s, at the height of his fame, Warren decided Goldie would be his next pursuit. First came the dinner invitation, then the private parties, then the invitation to his Beverly Hills home, an offer everyone in Hollywood understood. But Goldie didn't play the game. She was gracious, funny, and immovable. And that's when Warren's charm evaporated. Almost overnight, she noticed things shifting. Scripts she'd been promised suddenly gone, meetings canceled, projects mysteriously reassigned. Goldie didn't need an explanation. She already knew whose ego she had bruised. Directors who once praised her suddenly went quiet. Producers who had fought to cast her now hesitated. One even pulled her aside and whispered, "Warren says you're difficult, not serious material." It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was a slow, calculated smear campaign. "He doesn't handle rejection," Goldie admitted years later. "He punishes it." 6 words that explained everything. What began as a simple no slowly morphed into a vendetta that shadowed her through the early 1980s. Warren Beatty's influence was enormous, and he wielded it without mercy. Goldie never confronted him, never called him out. She let the years speak for themselves. But eventually, fate put them in the same room again, an awards show. Years after the fallout, Warren approached her with that familiar smile, leaning in as if nothing had happened. Goldie met his eyes, returned a gentle, polite smile, then turned her back on him mid-sentence. No scandal, no scene, just one quiet, devastating dismissal.
6. Bill Murray, the table read that changed everything. Bill Murray, number 6 on Goldie's Blacklist. The public humiliation that made Goldie Hawn walk away. Of all the names on Goldie's Blacklist, Bill Murray sits at number 6, not because of a long-standing feud, but because of a single moment she could never forget. It was supposed to be a simple table read for a late 1980s studio comedy. On paper, pairing America's Sweetheart with comedy's Wild Card looked like a guaranteed hit. But that day, in that room, Bill Murray did something that left Goldie feeling humiliated in front of everyone. One comment, one gesture, a single moment strong enough to shatter the Hollywood magic she once believed in. From that day forward, Goldie knew she would never share a frame with Bill Murray again. The moment the table read began, everything fell apart. Within minutes, the room shifted from excitement to dread. Bill Murray showed up nearly an hour late, loud, rumpled, and not the least bit sorry. He dropped his half-empty coffee cup right onto the script pages and declared, "Now we can start." Goldie looked at him and felt it instantly. Something was about to go very, very wrong. As the reading got underway, Goldie delivered her lines with a trademark warmth and timing that made her a star. Then Murray cut her off mid-scene, smirking as he said, "Why don't you try acting like you've done drama before?" The men in the room erupted with laughter. Goldie didn't. She quietly closed her script, stood up, and walked out without saying a single word. That silence carried more weight than any argument ever could. By the next morning, her team informed the studio that Goldie Hawn was out. No interviews, no explanation. She simply vanished from the project. "He thinks unpredictability is genius," she later confided to a friend. "I think it's exhausting." That moment changed her career. From then on, she avoided volatile creative geniuses who mistook cruelty for brilliance. She turned down male-driven comedies, refused to tolerate tantrums, and chose peace over chaos. Years later, when someone asked if she'd ever work with Murray again, her answer was calm, simple, and absolute. No interest.
Now you understand the actual stories concealed behind Hollywood's perfect smile. For decades, we saw only what Goldie wanted us to see, the laughter, the sunshine, the effortless charm. But underneath it all was a woman who knew exactly who she was and what she deserved, a woman who drew boundaries when boundaries weren't popular, a woman who walked away from millions of dollars in major opportunities because her peace of mind was worth more than any paycheck. What makes Goldie's story so powerful isn't just the famous names on her list, it's the quiet dignity with which she handled each situation. She didn't run to tabloids, she didn't write tell-all books, she didn't trash anyone in interviews. She simply made her choices, protected her energy, and kept moving forward. That takes strength most people can't imagine. Think about what she sacrificed. Think about the roles she turned down, the projects that never happened, the relationships she could have built with powerful directors and producers if she just played the game. But Goldie refused to play. She chose herself, she chose respect. And in doing so, she became more than just a movie star. She became a symbol of quiet resistance in an industry that demands women stay silent and smile through anything. These 6 men, Kirk Douglas, Penn, Chevy Chase, Dustin Hoffman, Warren Beatty, and Bill Murray, probably never thought twice about how they treated her. They likely moved on to their next project, their next co-star, their next moment in the spotlight. But Goldie remembered. And now, decades later, we're finally hearing her side of the story. The question isn't whether these men were wrong. The question is, how many other women in Hollywood have similar lists? How many other actresses, writers, directors, and producers have quietly stepped away from opportunities because someone made them feel small? How many brilliant careers were derailed not by lack of talent, but by someone else's ego? Goldie Hawn's legacy isn't just the laughter she gave us or the films she made. It's the example she set for standing firm in your values, even when it costs you something, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the whole world is telling you to just smile and let it go. So here's what I want to know from you. Which of these 6 stories hit you the hardest? Was it Kirk Douglas's patronizing treatment of an Oscar winner? Penn's mocking words at a charity event? Chevy Chase's on-set arrogance? Dustin Hoffman's public dismissal of her dramatic abilities? Warren Beatty's calculated revenge campaign? Or Bill Murray's cruel comment during the table read? Drop a comment below and tell me which actor shocked you the most and why. And here's the bigger question. Do you think Goldie did the right thing by staying silent all these years? Or should she have called these men out publicly when it happened? Would speaking up have changed Hollywood, or would it have just ended her career? I really want to hear your perspective on this because it's not a simple answer. There's no right or wrong here, just real human experiences and the difficult choices we all have to make about when to fight and when to walk away. If this story opened your eyes to a side of Hollywood you never knew existed, do me a favor, smash that like button. Hit share to spread this story to anyone who loves old Hollywood tales. Drop your thoughts in the comments section and subscribe to this channel so you never miss another untold story from behind the scenes. We're digging deep into the real Hollywood, the one they don't show you at award ceremonies, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.